the news of the day is that the European Society of Radiology, its Executive Council, has agreed to rename the Computer Application Subcommittee into Imaging Informatics Subcommittee. And I'm very happy that you saw me as a sub-society of ESR is leading the changes and planning to organize more conferences on medical imaging informatics. And with this, I would like to start with the topic for today, which is very interesting. And we shall talk about PACS replacement. What is actually PACS in the today's radiology? What is it for? And how to change PACS if you are not happy with the existing one, with the system. But I'd like to start with the patient. The patient with back pain, severe back pain, has been consulted several times in the hospital. He has had several CTs of the chest or the abdomen, but diagnosis was not made. And the patient has been referred to MRI. MRI has demonstrated tuberculosis spondylitis, and the patient went to oncology because there was a suspicion for oncology before this. Without seeing the MRI report or the images, oncologist has said and reported that there is no oncologic pathology, and the patient was lost for the health system. So the images, they are very important, and if they were available through the PACS, through the READINESS at the time of clinicians consultation, the fate of the patient would have been completely different. The patient has finally died just in several months without proper diagnosis, and the communication of results of radiology with clinicians is pivotal, and the information systems are very important to facilitate this cooperation. If there is a problem with cooperation, if radiology services do not have enough support from IT, then it's the problem. And you can see here on the images what happens if PACS works poorly, if the service just happens on request, if IT team says that they know everything better, then radiologists are unhappy and PACS is unreliable. There might be a lot of quarrel, a lot of talks and problems between IT committee. It may turn into comedy, and there might be problems of cooperation between IT and radiology. It is very important to establish very close cooperation and talk with IT team on the medical language, and also to translate the medical tasks and medical requirements into IT terms. If there is a normal cooperation and partnership of radiology department and IT, if the service is proactive, then radiology workflow becomes consistent. This is really important. In the presentation, I would talk about PACS history, PACS requirements, indicators for PACS change, how to do it, major mistakes and risks, and how to lead the process. The history of PACS has started in 1982 in Kansas, and the fully digital first hospital started to operate in London. Yesterday, we had analog databases, and most of the clinics had transitioned to digital format, to digital technologies, and PACS was implemented in all major clinics. VNA is becoming the standard of technology, so which is vendor neutral archive, and there is more and more of division of storage and diagnostic functionality, which fosters development of teleradiology and substitution of clinical applications or PACS, with keeping the same archive which is needed for many decades. Today we have integrated PACS and READINESS solutions. We need patient-centric solutions. Security is the issue, and I will say a few words about it separately. There should be cloud PACS with integration of different clinical and radiological services, and machine learning and artificial intelligence become more and more widespread, providing added solutions for increasing efficiency. Tomorrow we shall see more of national and international PACS. Probably there will be end of PACS evolution, and there are questions and some people say that PACS may even disappear because of the development of big medical data systems, which also contain artificial intelligence methods to help analyze the images. The modern PACS should allow reading, reporting, communication, second opinion, and collaboration of colleagues. And externally, it should be integratable with clinical scenarios and workflow. It should allow feedback from the clinicians. It should have tumor board applications, and it should allow to track the outcomes. So very close integration of PACS with clinical information systems is very, very important. And I will say some words why is it so. And the major trends of today's PACS are providing cross-functionality, again, cross-integration, but also analytical tools, which allow not only to see the images and to demonstrate the images to radiologists or clinicians, but also to analyze the efficiency of radiology department and to manage it. So PACS has become a solution and a tool not only for clinical work, but also for the management work. And parties which are, or stakeholders which are interested in the PACS are patient or consumer, provider as a radiologist, and an employer as a hospital. So all of them in this triangle are interested to have a reliable PACS which helps to manage workflow. And it also should have, of course, remote access, and we shall talk a bit about efficiency. This is the picture which may appear as a set of radiological positioning of the limbs and body parts, but in fact this is an example of how standardization works in different clinical specialties. And this is the images which are obtained by dermatologists in order to standardize the imaging of skin of the patient with NAVI. It is important to have the same images of the NAVI every time the patient comes to the dermatologist, and these types of images are also becoming part of enterprise imaging systems, the consequence of the PACS development. So everything gets standardized. And the very important point about management is the possibility of measuring. According to citation of Michael Bloomberg, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So modern enterprise imaging systems, they are used not only for clinical application, they're used for management, and we have to measure anything we can in the information system. The important thing is not to focus only on quantity, but also on quality. And this is a great citation of Michael Porter from HBS, who said that while healthcare organizations have never been against improving outcomes, the essential focus has been on growing volumes and maintaining margins. So the current trend is to measure outcomes, is to measure quality, and PACS, as much as other systems, clinical information systems, should allow measuring outcomes and quality. So according to Michael Porter, the model for change, for transitioning from quantity to quality measurement includes 6 major components. I would like to show some of them here, and I'm very sorry because the last line is not visible somehow. But the excuse me. Okay. But the important thing is that we should organize everything around patient's medical condition rather than physician's medical specialty. So it means that all clinical workflows should be integrated for separate medical condition. It's important to measure costs and outcomes for each patient, and integrating care across separate facilities is facilitated by information systems and also by PACS. The line which is missing here on the image is that there should be enabling IT platform which helps to measure the costs, the outcomes, and organize healthcare around the patient. What is meant by enabling information technology? It should be centered on patients. It should use common data definitions. So all information systems should talk the same language. It should encompass all types of patient data and should be accessible to all parties, include templates, recommendations, expert systems, and it should allow easy extract of information for research, for analysis, for epidemiology, for anything. Especially this is important when we use radiology for screening, for population-based studies in order to analyze the effects of screening on the population. So the typical lifetime of PACS is 7-10 years, and any old single vendor system will inevitably be replaced. And if you have a PACS which lacks standards, workflow optimization tools, and comprehensive viewing tools, it will limit your work, it will limit interoperability, efficiency, and preclude the department and the hospital from doing more with less resources. Doing more with less is good. It doesn't mean that it does not preclude the development. It doesn't mean that there is no money which will be spent on the system. It is something that Mayo Clinic uses for structuring its workflow and sending the message to the employees that we should do more with less. And every PACS system which provides standardized workflows allows this. Why do you need to replace the PACS? The reason might be that there are slow delivery times of medical images, long downtimes. There might be internal changes because of consolidation of radiology when you join together or merge X-ray, CT, MR, ultrasound departments. There might be external changes of other clinical services because of the new departments of cardiology, invasive cardiology, or radiotherapy, which also need imaging. There might be a lack of clinical workflow support, signs of aging, and especially important if PACS is unable to support organizational growth strategy, then it's the reason to change it. The goals. The first one is to have up-to-date technology, increase performance and stability, decrease the total cost of ownership, and in the end of the day, it should be flexible, the new system. So when you ask the question, should we replace the PACS? The question is not just about technology. It is also about organizing the workflow, organizing the processes, and general cleaning of the department, of the workflow. Every IT system comes only after structuring the business processes, after optimizing the workflow. This is the most important, because with installing new IT system, you may even make the processes worse if they have not been standardized before implementing the PACS or any other information system. So if you ask the question, or when you ask the question, should we replace the PACS, you have three answers, do nothing, and the inefficiency can be even more expensive. There might be fragmented upgrading with the patch method, and you can change everything with the new PACS. In order to come to the solution, there's a certain amount of homework that should be done. First of all, you should list all the features of current PACS, define useful and useless functions, analyze user satisfaction, and analyze indicators for the replacement of the current PACS. I will talk about them on the next slide. So you need to analyze what you have, because in order to find the funding for the new IT project, you should talk with the stakeholders, present the project, and explain what will be better, what are the aims which will be achieved with the new IT system, and what common good would be provided for the healthcare system, for the hospital, or for a network of medical centers. Then you should talk with other colleagues, create a list of required functionality for your current needs and also for the future needs. So you need to think, of course, strategically, not only for today. Create a list of gaps and ask for prices and information from various vendors. Then establish a map of risk, a list of holes in Swiss cheese during transition. So what might be the problems when you move from one PACS to another, and create a final roadmap to address the issue of replacing the PACS. Of course, money and the price also is considered and taken into account, and should be balanced with the quality of the and the result. The indicators for PACS replacement are different, so you need to think about market IT, or analyze market IT, clinical workflow, administrative requirements, and satisfaction. I will talk about each of them. So the market indicators come into play when vendor of your PACS is unable to share product roadmap. You don't just understand how the PACS system is going to be developed by the vendor. If the vendor is not keeping pace with emerging IT and clinical trends, and if vendor's roadmap doesn't match your organization's development. IT indicators. If the roadmap does not address emerging standardization protocols, it's a problem. If it does not make provision for mobile access, or if product doesn't meet current security standards, which is very important. For security, about a few words about security. This is the example of study by Oleg Pianych, who has done a work of addressing DICOM servers around the world and sending the request to connect with these servers. And 25% of DICOM servers have accepted external DICOM requests. It's a big problem. It means that those DICOM servers are open, and local PACS systems are probably open for hacking. In Europe, from 28th of May 2018, there is a new data protection regulation which has recently been adopted, and security issue and concern is addressed on the highest level of EU regulation, and objective of this regulation is to protect individual rights and freedom in relation to the processing of personal data, including, of course, medical data, and also to facilitate the free flow of such data within the Union. And EU citizens have received the new rights, such as right to be forgotten, which means that all of the data in PACS or in HIS might be deleted on patient request, right for data portability, so to transfer the data from one hospital to another electronically in the standard format, and the right not to be subject to legal measures based solely on automated profiling. So there is a principle in global data protection regulation of data minimization. It means that for scientific or for research purposes, two methods can be applied, which are pseudonymization and anonymization, to reduce the patient data and to protect patients' identity. So anonymization means removing all patient-sensitive information. It actually deletes identifying information. Theoretically, it allows identification of the patient's face by 3D reconstruction. And anonymization is used for further big data analysis and cloud computing technology. But from the physician's point of view, it is disadvantageous because we cannot connect the data with the patient. Another principle is called the identification or pseudonymization, when patient identifiers are substituted by certain numbers. This allows to hide patient's identity, but still continue using the data in the information systems. And this principle is used for clinically oriented research. And it theoretically allows to identify the patients by tracing back to the master index, but the pseudonymization is the most comfortable and most acceptable way of protecting the patient's identity. Back to indicators. There are also clinical indicators. If the product, the current PACS, does not enhance radiology productivity, if user interface is confusing, if it doesn't provide report customization, if it does not allow to launch third-party clinical applications, and if it's not keeping up with the new modalities, then again you have a problem with the PACS. And administrative indicators. If PACS is impeding hospitals' competitiveness, doesn't provide valuable data or analytics, if total cost of ownership exceeds cost of replacement, so if you spend a lot of money on licenses for storing the images, or you spend money on technical support, then it's the problem. And if the problem has high administrative overhead related to day-to-day operations and to upgrades, then of course the price is too high. And finally, satisfaction indicators. So everybody should be happy, including the radiologists, clinicians, patients, and management of the hospital. So by analyzing these indicators, you can get the answer: should we change the PACS? Then you can do just nothing and leave the system the way it exists. But saving money out of frugality leads to big problems, or even to bigger problems. And competition would still require change, and old PACS would inhibit the development of all departments. If you decided to go for the changes, you can apply patches with limited budget, upgrade to a new version, or completely replace the PACS. You need to define measurable goals for the PACS, plan time, finances, plan roll back to the old database if something goes wrong, plan ahead security leaks, and plan for data migration. These are steps which are important for moving from old PACS to the new one. The requirements for PACS are the following. So they are listed on this slide. Most of them are well known: fast, quick access to images. They are detailed, for example, by Royal College of Radiology. PACS should allow preloading of previous studies, user-friendly interface. There should be support of the PACS by service, proactive support, automatic quality control, for example, detection of matching names of patients, centralized configuration, and provision of necessary storage in order not to lose the new images, new data. And the optimal combination for today is the integrated READINESS and PACS system, which allows to have data on appointments, registration, quotation, reporting, billing. So everything around the patient workflow or along the patient workflow, and including peer review, second opinion, and dosimetry. With the complete system, you have control or complete control of the radiology department. Of course, in order to support the safety of the patient, there should be single sign-on feature, and dictation should be integrated into a single system, PACS and HIS. The other combinations, I'd like to say that PACS READINESS is a kind of steering wheel of your department. HIS provides the traffic or highway code, and HIS combined with READINESS leads us to the era of autopilot or self-driving car or self-driving radiology department. If more and more processes, or when more and more processes are standardized, obviously they can be automated, and it is quite clear. When you start changing something, you should always think of project management and think about change management. So transition plan requires analyzing the needs. We have talked about the needs on the previous slides. Develop strategy and plan, implement the plan, evaluate or improve what you have done, get feedback, and again work around the cycle, PDSA cycle, more and more. The time which is necessary for the project is calculated as the average of 6 values. 1, pessimistic scenario. 4, multiplied by most likely time which should be allocated, plus optimistic scenario. So average of those numbers would allow you to properly evaluate the time required for the project. For the procurement, what you need to do, you need to assess the organization readiness for the digital environment, have organization strategic plan and policy. So PACS cannot be changed only for radiology department. It should be connected with all clinical departments, and with this you need to understand the organization strategy. You need to establish and implement process for vendor selection. Negotiate contracts with the vendors. You need negotiation skills, and if you are a manager, you need to understand how to read the contract and how to budget it. For needs and readiness, the important stakeholders are radiologists, cardiologists, IT, administration, and physicians. The strategic plan should reflect your long-term goals. So with new PACS, you would like to improve patient outcomes, which is, of course, very difficult to calculate. You want to increase service scope of the services of radiology, so to provide new diagnostic methods and new services, such as peer review of the images, or sending the images or SMS messages to the clinicians, remote access, and so on. With the remote access, of course, you can provide more flexibility for radiologists, for your staff, and create new services. And of course, departmental efficiency and visibility of all process in the department is achieved by the modern PACS system. When you go for selection, you develop the document which is called request for proposal, and the document has several parts and information which is listed on this slide. So there should be a mission statement, objectives, hospital characteristics, clinical scenarios, timeline, growth potential, and the required components in order to receive a proper proposal from the PACS vendor. It is important also to think about migration, list of modalities, standards, performance standards, compression, system integration, many points. And in a request for proposal, you will limit it for 3 or 5 candidates, and finally calculate total performance score for every vendor, which would provide a solution or offer for the system. Of course, you need also to analyze the number of years in business, the technical ability of the vendor, ability to complete work on time, which are difficult to understand or evaluate. And in vendor evaluation, at the end of the day, it's all about trust. Whether you need to select experienced vendor with good process to manage integration, migration, change management, training and support, and finally the vendor reliability matters the most. There might be a very nice technical solution, but the poor management of the solution by the vendor would completely destroy the process. The very popular model of purchasing, of procurement now, is called software as a service, or infrastructure as a service, or platform as a service. With this solution, you put all the costs on the vendor and describe the end results and the aims, the scope of the service. You describe details and provide the details in the contract on which type and level of service you need to receive. With this, it's not you do not depend yourself on managing the storage, the networks, all the technical details. You just need the service, and these types of contracts, they are based on the, for example, on number of studies that you need to archive. This is the major measurement. What are the best practices? For example, for integration, you need to create clear and detailed description of the workflow. You need to have clear standards, testing environment, and test plans for integrating the systems. This is the scheme from Lightech company, and you see here that integration or migration actually looks very simple. So commands of DICOM, cfind, and cmove work with the source PACS. CStore moves the images to the new PACS, and cfind checks whether the images have arrived to the new PACS. When you have several PACS systems and you need to translate and you need to migrate from one to another, you need to have several processes running at the same time, like routing, rerouting from one PACS vendor to another. And once the data sets are the same, the databases are the same, you can switch the old one and move to the new one. Anyway, the migration takes a lot of time, a lot of efforts, and almost never it is completed with a 100% efficiency. So migration also includes cleaning out information which is no longer needed or required, and it also includes reconciliation against the patient demographic master index. With this, you combine several archives into large one, and you can provide for radiologists intelligent prefetching of the images available in the system. For the next step, for implementation, what is the best practice? First one, the key is organizing a team of stakeholders and internal project manager, so the one who's running the project. The recommendation is over communicate, so talk, meet a lot in order to look forward and plan for all possible faults, and to be sure that everybody understands the scope of the project. The plan of the project should be reviewed with the team and the vendor, and the hardware compatibility should be also ensured beforehand. Best practice for disaster recovery means that you should define the level of needed disaster recovery. How much downtime can you afford? 2 minutes, 2 hours, or 2 days? It depends on the clinical services, the type of the hospital, the type of the medical center. If it is an emergency service, then 2 minutes of downtime might be not affordable. So by this, the necessary amount of technical support would be defined. And what is important at the time of disaster? Just the system up and running again, or access to all prior images. The examples and mistakes. There are PACS transition mistakes when the process is oversimplified. You need to plan, test, and only then implement. You need, of course, to have a help from specialists. Not forget to consider all contingencies. Choose new recent PACS after consultation with the users, and you should also consider, of course, the infrastructure. The best examples exist in the descriptions online. This is the description from the company which supports data PACS replacement. And the example of one hospital in United States, there was a transition from GE to McKesson PACS with a volume of 3,002,100 studies. It is more than 70 terabytes of data, 2,100 millions of images, which is a lot, and transfer rate was of 80,000 studies per day, or 1.5 terabytes per day, which is a lot. And it took a certain amount of time, but was completed without many errors. So the accuracy was reported as 100%. So it is possible. We have now the Moscow project with the PACS, which has been installed. The project started 2 years ago. There are many regional PACS systems around the world, and the great thing is that the common PACS or united PACS provides the common workflow for radiologists, for technicians. Currently, we are connecting also clinicians to the system. And the United Radiology Information System allows for quality control and for detection of discrepancies in the reports. So what are the take-home points? Radiologists should define clear efficiency and clinical usability goals prior to purchasing PACS. So it is impossible to change the PACS or to explain to the management that the PACS should be changed just because we don't like the way it presents the images. There should be clear management goals and usability goals that would improve the efficiency and foster the clinical effectiveness of the department. PACS should allow to measure the productivity, time, amount, quality. There should be clear description of as is. So what is the current state? What is the state that we need to achieve, the state of the system to be, and development of a transition plan, keeping in mind the aims and the value of the radiology. IT guts, very important, and we rely completely on them to develop and to integrate the system to be usable by medical professionals. The cooperation between the radiologist and the IT team is the key to success, and please remember about goals, plan, and solution. The current time is the time of enterprise clinical information and imaging systems, and we shall see more of clinical system being integrated together with PACS, such as pathology or dermatology and other systems. How to lead the process, how to be a leader of the process, especially when you're not in charge. This is difficult, but every person, every manager at the level of the department can find a way to the minds and to the hearts of the higher management by providing the structured solutions and offers, proposals. So the purpose should be formulated according to smart technology. So the aims should be specific, manageable, attributable, reliable, and time-bound. Thinking, there should be detailed how to plan. What shall we do? There should be learning, analysis after action analysis, so brief, debrief, checking and modifying the process if something goes wrong. The group should be involved. You cannot change anything without involving the persons who are in charge, and especially the manager and the important stakeholders. And there should be feedback mechanism for mentoring and coaching, providing positive and negative feedback. We're keeping in mind these points listed on this slide. Change management works much better. And the summary, there are 4 steps to superior performance: perpetual dissatisfaction, prioritizing competing values, knowledge and set of skills, and ability to change culture. With all of this, PACS replacement happens much easier anyway, and always it takes a lot of efforts, but the result will be very good. So mission is not impossible, mission is possible, and especially if you wish hard enough and structure your proposals and your plans. With this, I would like to thank all of you, and please visit the website of USOMI, usomi.org, during ECR 2017 in Vienna. USOMI will have sessions on medical imaging informatics supported by USOMI, and it is a great pleasure for me personally to work with my colleagues from different countries on developing the European Society Medical Imaging Informatics, and special thanks to everybody who has helped me to develop the presentation and to work with IT systems, including Viktor Gombolevsky, Ilya Pyatninsky, Katya Klimova, and thanks to all members of USOMI board and USOMI. Thank you, and I will happy if there are questions. Спасибо, Андрей. Thank you. Ilya, so there's a question from Ilya on cloud PACS. Are there any perspectives? Cloud PACS exists as a service, and there are companies which are able to provide it also in Russia, but around the world this is very widespread solution. Of course, the security is an issue, but otherwise there are many. Actually, I think all major PACS vendors are offering cloud-based solutions. In some countries, there is a general negative perception of cloud because it's not clear where data are stored and who is controlling them. But otherwise, all the major vendors are providing cloud-based solutions for PACS as well. Thank you for your positive comments, and also welcome to those Russian speaking. Please join the website, which is medradiology.moscow, for the medradiology Moscow, yes, for our current projects. Okay, thank you very much, and bye bye. See you later. Sorry. Question from Nadia. Oh, that are common between metals and Nadia, thank you very much. So the regional PACS systems are obviously they are inevitable. That's the only way to go, and the request for this type of systems comes from patients, because every patient wants to have the treatment and to have the medical services and to have all the information at the point of care. Obviously, you cannot bring all your medical data with you, and there are many companies around the world which provide transfer of your imaging data to any hospital that you are asking for or moving to. So by these regional systems work quite well. There are more of them, and especially countries which are interested in controlling the costs and which are interested in providing the common level of quality healthcare for their health care systems, are working on implementing IT solutions and regional PACS. For country level, of course, it is much more difficult, but the task of the country is to provide the recommended standard and to provide the unified or common recommendations on PACS implementation. That's what is being done by Royal College of Radiology or by American College of Radiology. And European Society of Radiology is also doing more and more in terms of recommending the general rules for radiology workflow. This is important. But and the system should be able to talk to each other. So IHE profiles, XDS are also very important for interoperability. By this, you don't need to have the big system for the whole country, but you can have central repository and transfer of the images on request from one PACS to another. Okay, good. And one more small thing for those who plan to visit ECR in the end of February, on the 14th of the February, we are organizing the workshop on how to present at ECR, and we're inviting speakers from Russia, from Moscow, to have a training at our educational facility to get prepared for ECR. So welcome, and please check it on our website. The question is, what about VR? Is it important now? So do you mean, what do you mean? Do you mean virtual reality? Is that virtual reality? Sergey, Lukshin. Thank you. Voice recognition. Voice recognition is a great tool, and in many countries it has become the standard of healthcare. And we also now testing the voice recognition solution for our Moscow regional RIS I look forward, and I'm very optimistic about application. But otherwise, around the world, I don't see any problem in voice recognition systems, which are very nicely and smoothly integrated with READINESS and PACS systems. And many problems are solved by new technologies for voice recognition, and I'm sure that we'll see more and more of them coming into the clinical scenarios. The movement, the incentive should be from authorities. So if we are required to store the data of each patient consultation in the extended format, so not in the short format of report, then voice recognition would be important. If voice recognition allows to decrease the time needed to report the study, then that's the way to go. So voice recognition should not be just a toy, uh, which is fancy, and it should be the tool for improving the efficiency of the department by decreasing the time required to report the study. I hope to answer the question. So is it important now? Yes, it is important. Okay. Thank you again very much for all of your questions. And okay, thank you, Nadia, and thank you, everybody. Now, bye bye.